Hello, everyone, and welcome to Empower Your Teen. Today, we are joined by Dr. Mark Schillinger, an expert in stress management and family dynamics. He's the creator of The Right Way for Family Unity, a method that helps families enjoy more caring and cooperative relationships. He's the founder of Challenging Teen Sons, which provides workshops and private coaching to show parents how to motivate their teen son without nagging and punishments. And he also founded the nonprofit Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, a non-religious wilderness rite of passage initiation. Welcome, Dr. Mark. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Happy to do so.
So I love to start by asking people if they would share just kind of how they got into the line of work they do. How did you come to do this work?
Okay, it's a big question. Goes like this. For 20 years, I was successfully operating my business as a stress management doctor. And then all of a sudden, my beautiful children turned teenagers. And something changed. And all of a sudden, I was not Mr. Stress Management anymore. I found my teens to be super challenging. And I wasn't really getting through to them. And I loved them. I wanted to be the world's best daddy in the world, of course. And they just started moving further and further away from me. It really made me sad. The way I relate to it back then, this is in the 90s, where my son Gabe, who I love, of course, and my daughter Becca more than anything else in the world, I felt like he was on a boat heading out of the harbor, just moving further and further and further away from me. And I was standing there on the shore with no boat, no paddle, no way to get to him. I just felt like I was losing him. I mean, literally tear-jerkingly losing him. So one of my men's fraternities that I belonged to said that there was a person up in Canada putting on rite of passage event for young men, and that maybe I should send my son. So I went also as the medical provider, and Gabe went as one of the participants, and it was really helpful. And when I got back from Canada from this event with my son Gabe, I decided maybe I'll put on something like this too, because while I enjoyed the event that we went to, I thought I could do much more being a stress management doctor and a personal growth expert. So lo and behold, I put out the word to men's fraternities here in the Bay Area where I live, and we had over 80 men show up who wanted to join me in this. And then there was a number of women who joined me in this. And so I put it together, and we started the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, this modern rite of passage initiation. And I knew my son Gabe had to be here, as I like to say kiddingly. If he didn't show up, he'd get no allowance. So I knew there'd be one young man showing up. And it turned out, and this is really true, Emma, we had 205 young men show up on a hilltop here in Marin County where I live, no advertising. Whoa. And I realized, oh my God, I am not the only father here having a hard time with their teen. So after that event, which was wildly successful, and I may say that for Gabe and myself, this is now in the year 2000, it really cured, I mean, as a physician saying that carefully, it cured our relationship to the point now where Gabe and his partner live 5 minutes from me. We own a business together. He's well known around the world, legionbeats.com. He's a hip hop marketing expert. We're both musicians. We play ball together, really brought us together. And that's when I realized that it's not just me. There's lots of parents struggling on how to raise teens in this era of digital dominance. Mm-hmm. And then one last thing, I spent a little bit of time in Kenya, Africa with a small tribe. I was curious as to how did families do this before all these digital devices invaded our culture? And boy, I learned so much. The main conclusion I came away with is that all modern parents, like you and me, we all had the right instincts or have the right instincts. But the key that I learned was that tribe, and how tribes did it for hundreds of thousands of years, is that they all had a way, they had a method, they had a system. They knew how to raise their children to not only be happy and healthy within themselves, but to really be cooperative and caring within their community so that they could contribute. So that's the long and short of it. I was having trouble with my son. The rite of passage and the mentors that were around him really helped us and healed us for real. And that's when I decided to do way less doctoring and way more mentoring of parents and family. And to this day, in fact, we're getting ready for our 60th Young Men's Ultimate Weekend in 2 weeks.
That's amazing. So you don't have to try to figure it out. There are codified systems there that can walk you through it.
Yeah, I mean, again, and when I was in Kenya, the system that they're using the shaman, who I spent plenty of time with, he could recall the names of the shaman for hundreds of years before him, all using the same system and method.
Wow. That's
Right?
amazing.
But they have a way. That's the key. Is parents these days, we don't have a way because we're all so busy working and trying to keep the kids together and being in relationships with our significant others and trying to stay happy, healthy, and holy within ourselves. We're all overwhelmed. So we make stuff up on the spot. And I'm telling you, for a teen who's no longer your little boy or girl, they're not falling for it because they have their cell phones and other devices to raise them. So that's the key. Is I think you have to have a way. You can't just make stuff up as you go.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to talk about more of that with you. But on this topic that we're discussing this week about preparing them for life after high school, is it true that it's harder than ever to successfully launch teens into adulthood?
Absolutely. In fact, in a moment, I'm just going to do a quick screen share just to really show parents how strongly I feel about this. First of all, when humans have to evolve, and change the way they think or behave, it could take thousands, tens of thousands of years. Here we are living in the digitally dominant era that really it's only been the last 20 to 30 years that we've had to adapt. So I'm telling you, as a stress management doctor, that's not nearly enough time for most people to adapt to dealing with devices and all the time that it brings and the time suck that it brings, let alone the attention suck, right? So there's a few people in the population, maybe 20% of the population that loves devices. They can adapt right away. Then there's 20% of the people like me who don't like them, having a hard time dealing with them. And then everybody else is in between. So the number one thing that I would tell parents is that these devices are really getting in the way. I'm not saying we need to go back to the horse and buggy, of course not. I'm just saying that the speed and intensity with which we've been thrust upon these devices is really hurting us. So that's one main thing. Again, I'm going to show you this slide real quick just to make a point, if I may.
Yeah.
Hopefully, can you see that, I hope?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So there's a number of reasons there, but you see how I have the top two there, digital domination, and I really want to emphasize this one too, which is consumer commercialism and endless entertainment. While there's a lot of good things about devices, of course, and all the internet information that's out there, most of it really, though, is geared for endless entertainment. I like to call it, most of it is mindless entertainment and consumer commercialism. So we're raising children in a culture where they think that they need to be entertained every moment of the day. And so parents struggle to educate their children how to make it in the world, because if we don't look or sound a certain way, if we don't know how to do it in a way that their brains are now being trained to do, they won't listen. So those are my two top big reasons. You can quickly scan the other reasons there. But what I want to end with the slide is that at the bottom, under the picture of that teen young man, see where it says parental apprehension? So I want to say something most profoundly and sincerely to all of you parents watching. Your anxiety about whether or not your teen can make it in the world is by far the number one reason that actually keeps them from making it in the world. When I was a father worried about my son, all my worry would spill out on him and my daughter, for that matter. And they thought that I didn't think they could make it, or were not smart enough, because I was so anxious about them. And so my anxiety prevented them from hearing my own wisdom that I had for them. So the first thing that I teach when I'm mentoring parents, and young men for that matter, but certainly with parents, is teaching them simple mindfulness, mind calming techniques, so that no matter what their teens say or do, if they can relax first and not act on their reaction, which is like, how dare you speak to me like that? Or I can't believe that's what you did. That's not going to go well with a modern teen. That worked when I was a kid 50 years ago as a teenager, but it doesn't work now. So that's the first thing I'd recommend, is that parents learn. What I teach my parents is 15 seconds or less, how to do a mindfulness-based technique to calm yourself literally down so quickly that even if you don't say anything, that alone will quickly change the relationship, where your teen will begin to respect you more, because they can't get you to jump on the stuff they're saying or doing and say something out of a reaction. They'll begin to respect you when you get that you're calming yourself down and you're waiting for the right thoughtful answer to say. So those are some of the reasons why it's harder than ever.
Wow. Okay. So what is some of the top advice that you have for parents today, given all of these things that we can do to just really kind of, help our kids kind of launch, help us to feel that trust in our kids that they're going to be okay when they get out of the house?
Okay. So the answer I'm going to give you may be counterintuitive because it's not so much what the parents can do, it's what they shouldn't do and what they should trust others to do. So I want to make the case for what's missing in our culture. There's three things that I think are missing in our culture. One is rite of passage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the rite of passage is so critical for the parents. If we all lived in a community, now I'm a visionary, so just bear with me on my vision here, but if we lived in a community or communities where every year at a certain type of year, everybody knew it was rite of passage season, like it is in still tribes around the world, right? And that you knew that the people who are going to be doing the initiations were going to be espousing the same virtues that you know your children needed to learn, like responsibility, accountability, discipline, empathy, cooperation, right? So if we had rite of passage where teens could go hear other adults besides their parents, leading them through ceremonies and challenges, all to teach them the same lessons their parents have been trying to teach them. Okay, that's number one, is we're missing rite of passage. Number two, what makes a rite of passage work is the mentors who show up at the rite of passage, right? So at the rite of passage that I put on for young men, like all the mentors are highly trained. This Saturday, we have a 8-hour training, and then there's additional training so that the mentors know exactly how to do two things really well. Number one, help young people learn what their own values are and how to create a lifestyle where they get to behave in a way that's authentic for them. Okay, young people are dying to be seen by their parents. Not that their parents don't want to see them, but like I said, we're all so busy, we don't really see or hear them a lot of times, right? Right? We're just so concerned about teaching them what we think they need to know versus letting them shine through who they are. So the mentors are really trained on helping draw out of them who they are, while at the same time, I call this a both and, while at the same time using challenges to teach the young people how to develop the values and behaviors they're going to need to know in order to make it in the adult world. And that's how our ancestors have been doing that for hundreds of thousands of years. Draw out of that young person who they are so they feel happy and seen. When a young person feels happy because they know who they are and they're being supported, that they will more than biologically willingly want to run and help everybody else, including their parents, right? So help them learn who they are and help them learn how to make it in the outside world. So again, I'm just going to show a slide real quick, if I may, just to make this point.
Yes.
Thank you. And the point is this. Second here, because I'm not great with devices. Hopefully you can see this. Can you see this kind of stop sign here relating to your teen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So here's my advice. Number one, we need rite of passage. Number two, we need mentors. So for parents, I say stop parenting when you have a teen, start mentoring. There's a big difference between a parent who's emotionally attached to the well-being of their child, which you never can stop being. My kids are in their 40s. Of course, I'm going to be emotionally attached to their well-being. However, at this point in life, you have to start getting unattached or relaxed to your attachment and act more like a mentor, which means that you're going to start showing them how to do things instead of like yelling at them for not doing things. Right? Okay. So that's the third thing. And then the second thing, and then the number three thing, which I kind of mentioned before, is that rite of passage, mentors, and what mentors do and what parents need to do is to learn how to draw out of their children who they are. Children are just literally craving to find out who they are because they're so distracted by being told who they ought to be.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to say something very dramatic and then we can go on to the next question, but I really mean this. I know that there's a lot of parents out there listening who've had young people, their teens, threaten them with suicide. Okay, that should not be hidden. Everybody knows that this is going on, right? My sister's son, teen son, many years ago, completed suicide. Okay? I've been through this in my family. Why am I saying this? Because most of the notes left behind by teens who complete suicide is that they didn't feel seen or heard.
Yeah.
So, rite of passage, mentors, and mentors and or parents or people who can bring out of teens who they are so they have their own self-respect. They don't need their parents anymore for respect. They need to start developing it for themselves.
I am so glad you are doing this work because I tell parents all the time, this is a developmental stage where they are finding their own identity separate from their parents, right? But there's not much out there in the world to help them find this for themselves and to help them answer these questions for themselves. So I'm so glad that you are doing this work because it is so, so important. All right, so what are, you told me before that you have 3 key ingredients that help teens overcome the forces that keep them from adapting to the challenges of adulthood. Would you explain to us what those are?
Right. So those are the ones I just mentioned, but I want to go into more detail, right? Because rite of passage, mentors, and helping teens discover who they are. But this is an opportunity for me to say something more deep, if I may. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm going to show you a slide real quick here again that might help the point. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. Oh boy. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, I think I got it. Can you see the slide?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Mentoring.
Right. So yeah, the purpose of mentoring, right? So the whole idea is for parents to find aunts and uncles and neighbors and people who have the same or similar values that they have, and make a point to have those people come visit them. I don't know what it's like now, but when I was younger, I lived in these apartments in Queens, New York City. At any time, somebody could knock on the apartment door and my parents would go, "Come in." It wouldn't even say who's there most of the time. And there'd be some neighbor, and I would answer the door and they would go, "Mark, is that you? Oh, how are you doing? What's going on?" And everybody knew everybody's kids, right? So that is a key point that relates to these 3 key features about rite of passage, mentors, and helping them discover who they are. You need to surround your children with people who know what values you want them to learn, so that they hear it from people other than their own parents. That's really, really critical. So in my way, when I work with families, and again, I'm going to show you this slide real quick. When we work with parents, I specifically have them learn which they have to pick, like, what virtues do you know your son or daughter needs to learn? Virtues, I mean by a 1-word quality. With that slide, see where it says cooperation or curiosity? Those are 1-word qualities, virtues. And then I tell parents, give it a 1-sentence definition. Like, don't talk for 5 minutes. Teens don't want to hear 5 minutes unless it's some movie they're totally enthralled with, and it's probably not you. So if you say to a young person, your son, I'm asking to be more responsible, that means doing things you like to do and don't like to do until completion. Now you have a virtue and a value. And then you can say, and the way that I'll know you're doing that is when you go to your room every Saturday and do your laundry and clean your room like we've agreed to do. See, that's the behavior, right? So what I'm getting at here is that it's critical for parents to really clearly define what you want your teens to learn with a virtue and a value and a behavior, and be very brief like that, because that's really critical. And that's what we do with the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend. The mentors speak very briefly, right? So that's what I'm encouraging you to do, because in the community, in the village, so to speak, or the people that come over, if they're teaching your children the same virtues and values that you can clearly define for your neighbors and your aunts and uncles, that you bring over, your children will do fine. The more they hear it from other people than you, the more likely they're going to behave that way.
It's so interesting. The more connected we are, we're actually at the same time losing our tribe, right? We're losing community, we're losing tribe, and that live, especially in the past couple of years, just that live interaction with people is really slipping away, and it is really hard as a parent.
Oh my God, it's brutal. In fact, give me one moment here, because I want to show you a slide, if I may, that just so clearly delineates what you just said. But while I'm looking for the slide, I know where it is. I'm going to just repeat back to you what you said, which is critical. We all live in houses where everybody's together. Most people live in houses that are so beautiful and have plenty of room, and yet we're all isolated, right? We're all isolated. That's your point. And here's the slide. So how do you overcome that? How do you make this not happen? Because so many parents, say, oh, he's in his room, she's in his room. They don't want to come out. They're talking, online with their friends. They're doing all these things. Well, to a degree, that's awesome and wonderful. But that taken to its extreme gets everybody isolated. And then, like many parents, I'm sure, watching this interview, they know that their children love them, because they do, no matter how much smack they talk about you. They do love you. And they feel like you're interrupting them when you want them to come for dinner or hang out with mom and dad for a few minutes or go for a walk together. They think that's ridiculous. So the way to overcome that is to know what virtues and values your own children have and what behaviors they have that make them feel like they're expressing their virtues and values, and do those activities with them, including playing a video game. Like my son loved hip hop. I don't love hip hop. I love African music. I like reggae music, but I don't love hip hop. And once I said, dude, let me hear your music more. And then I got into it. I could hear the rhythm in it. I could kind of relate to it. And I would say, dude, what do you love about these words? They're violent. They're weird. And he would say some profound stuff to me that I would never consider. My daughter, she's into art. I'm more of a musician. So once I got into like finding what happens to your brain when you're doing your art, you look so happy, you look so basically free. And so once I got engaged in what they love and did it with them, then it was way more likely if I said, sweetheart, can we just go for a walk? I'd love to spend 15 minutes with you just once around the block. Then they were way more likely to cooperate because I was getting into their world first. There's an expression I like to use, which is that conformity without authenticity is anarchy. If we just want our children to conform to everything we want them to and the culture does, and we're not dedicated to bringing out of them who they are, children are not going to cooperate. They're not going to cooperate. And that's why they isolate. Get more into who they are and what they're doing, and you'll be amazed at how they show up for you.
I love that, because the way our school system is designed is for conformity, right? It's for compliancy, right? That's why we have standardized tests to standardize things. So it can feel dehumanizing, especially towards the end of the high school years when it's what's your ranking, what are your scores, da, 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 da. So if they have people at home, parents and others, like you're saying, that are getting at the core of who they are as a person and what they're really into, I mean, what a difference that can make for them.
Absolutely. I like to call it making them the deal. Okay. I'll tell a young man that I'm mentoring either by Zoom or here in the office, go, dude, I'm going to make you a deal if you want to make the deal. Okay. I'm going to help you discover who you are for real. I'm a life coach. I can do this and give me 5, 6, 7 sessions. You're going to be so impressed with how much you know who you are. And that's where the source of happiness is, being true to yourself. And if you make the deal, I'm going to also show you how to develop certain virtues and values and behaviors that'll allow you to make it in the world so you can actually make enough money to support who you are. Otherwise, you're going to spend your whole life working your butt off and never get a chance to be yourself. And you're going to turn 50 and go, where'd my life go?
Yeah.
But if you make the deal, you can have both your whole life. I tell them I'm 69 years old. I've never had more fun. I mean that. I've never been happier and healthier and holier, more fun, because I made the deal with myself. I adapted, and I have plenty of time to be me at the same time.
Amazing.
One thing I'll say too about that is, like, about 1.5 years ago, the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend and my work with parents got a chance to be on CNN, right? We were on this show, right? Lisa Ling. This is like Lisa Ling. That was an amazing thing that she called us out and came and filmed this all-male rite of passage. She was the only woman ever allowed there. She was amazing. I like to say that we were outnumbered. There was 200 dudes and one woman, and we kissed her lotus feet. She was amazing, right? She told me that she cried so many times during that event that she filmed because she was so impressed with how we did it, right? These were strange young men to us. The parents dropped them off on Friday night, and they're like, I don't want to be here. And then by Sunday, they're like, they're giving us a finger because they don't want us to send them back home, because they've really learned how to be true to themselves and how to adapt to the demands of the outer world. What got Lisa Ling to cover us, though, is because she knew we had a way. It's a method. It's tribal. And that's what I want parents to hear. You can't make things up on the spot. You have to know in advance how you're going to raise your teen, how you're going to help them make it out there in the world. What are you going to do when they get out there? Because you should know that the statistics are staggering about how many young people are moving back home because they flunk out of college because they don't have the skills to even look at a checkbook and know what to do with it, right? So the key there is that you have to have a way. And for us to be recognized on international TV for that was really a beautiful thing for us.
That's amazing. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so you have a free gift for the parents who are with us this week. Would you mind sharing what that is?
If you want to have this free 20-minute consultation, and maybe Emma, maybe you, because I think I sent you the link to it, but I can say out loud what it is. You would fill out a form first, right? It's kind of like a questionnaire. So I get to know what your issues are with your teens. And then on that call with that questionnaire application that you fill out, I could really get right to it. Like in 20 minutes, I can give you some really good advice about what's working, what's not working. I would let you know how I could work with you as a coach for teens, which is what I spend most of my time doing. And I would send you some more information about how you can kind of self-study and do things on your own. So let's see if I can get this. I'm going to give one last try to get this document up. And if I can't, then I won't. Oh, yeah, I can do it. What a miracle. Okay. So if you can see that where it says the 20-minute consultation, if parents want to write that down or take a picture of that, put it in your
You don't even have to worry about that. We're going to have all the links right below the video.
Okay, great.
We're watching right here. So we're going to put a button down there so they can go right to it.
Good. So I really encourage people to take advantage of that because it's no strings attached. Like just you'll go to that link, you'll fill out a form. I'm happy to spend 20 minutes with you trying to help you with the issues that you're having with teens. And by the way, when parents do that, I open the call by thanking them because I cannot tell you how many parents I've met who are struggling with their teens. No judgment. That's what happened to me. It's why I started all this stuff, but they won't own it.
Yeah.
They won't admit it. They feel ashamed. They feel embarrassed that they're having a hard time. And I say, please stop that. It's not your fault. It's the culture. The culture's not interested in raising happy, healthy, and holy teens.
Right.
They're interested in raising, as you were saying, Emma, they want to raise children to go into the careers and the corporations and the job. That's the bulk of what's intended for our children. So yeah, it's not your fault. Believe me, it's the culture.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mark, for being here, for sharing that. Thank you for that free consultation. That's going to be so helpful to so many families. I really appreciate you being with us this week.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk again soon, okay?
I would love that.